Hello, world, and welcome to another episode of the Game & Watch podcast. Today, I'm your host, Finest Dabs, and this is episode 54, and I have my guest host with me. I have Celine.
Hey ho.
I have I have Too Tall or Justin Reed.
What's going on, folks?
And I have Matt here with me.
I'm so glad I got final billing this time, because obviously that's the most important person, right?
It is. Best for last. Best for last. That's
Awesome.
why we'll rotate it every week, so you guys won't feel left out otherwise. Let's see.
Okay. I won't hold that against you.
Appreciate it.
All
right. And in this week's episode, we have a ton to talk about, y'all. We have lawsuits going on from several different companies. We have Twitch, we have Epic, Apple. Beyond that, we'll be talking about more about the PlayStation live stream that happened on earlier this week on Thursday. And then we'll just be talking about a whole bunch of other things: Grand Theft Auto, Bayonetta, and anything else that we want to talk about on the podcast. Let's see. Before we jump into all of it, just don't forget, you can always go to Patreon and sign up as a member and support the podcast. And then, or you can follow us on Twitter, Twitch, and all that good stuff. But anyway, let's jump into it. Let's see. First off, we have our gaming mentions. So, guys, I'm going to run down this quick list of gaming mentions, and then we can just dive into any ones that you feel, connect with you. So, first off, we have Square Enix announces Forspoken Final Fantasy Origins live stream for the Tokyo Game Show. We have Twitch sues a group of organizers that were organizing hate raids on Twitch. So it was two different people that were organizing these events. And then we have we have ultra realistic VR and how it affects the mind. Let's see. Then Sony also buys Playroom developers to bolster its PlayStation Studios. The company, I believe the publisher is Firesprite. And then we have Grand Theft Auto being downvoted on YouTube after the live stream this last Thursday, because who doesn't want more Grand Theft Auto? But it seems like a lot of people don't at this point. The Bayonetta 3 developers say they can't announce the game or say anything about the game because Nintendo says so. So we'll talk about a little bit more about that. And the last couple announcement is Halo Infinite's multiplayer start date was released. A Matrix trailer came out, and I know the Matrix isn't a video game, but it might as well be, because we're all in the Matrix, aren't we? Let's see. No Man's Sky gets basically its own redemption story. I mean, it's been redeeming itself throughout the years, but as far as its Steam reviews, it's on the up and up, and you wouldn't know anything was ever wrong with it. And lastly, PlayStation 5 now has a queue. If you go to the PlayStation website, they now have a queuing system in order to purchase a PlayStation 5. A lot to talk about here, but who would like to kick it off?
Why don't we have Celine kick it off, since this is her first episode with us?
What are you talking? She was on the stream with me the other day. What are you talking about?
Oh, yeah.
On Thursday.
It's the inaugural podcast recording for Celine.
I mean,
why don't you kick us off?
All right then. I would say, all I can say is, in terms of the thing with Twitch, it's about damn time.
Yep.
That was the first thought I had when I found out about that. And also, I would like to. I was like, what? Why the heck is Hideki Kamiya talking about? Because I know he's very, very blunt online, so I don't doubt what he's saying. But like, what? How has Nintendo got so much control here? And it's like, this can't just be because of the cosmetics in Bayonetta 2.
Very,
Well,
very interesting.
Nintendo always likes to keep a stranglehold on stuff, I think. But Nintendo being like a big controller and a publisher, it's usually the publisher that's going to be in control of any kind of marketing budget. And that's probably part of the thing that's got them shackled down a little bit. It could be that Bayonetta 3 isn't as far along as they'd like, and maybe they're looking to, pass off some of that blame to a conglomerate that can't really take it.
How? It's been, what, 4 years since it's been announced? I mean,
look, we're starting to see games get released now that have been in development for like 7 or 8 years. And Bayonetta would only continue being made because there's a fan base for it, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, but those games that you see from 7, 8 years are generally Sony games or Sony studios.
Sony.
You usually don't see that from like Capcom or these other studios, but it happens. Usually at that point, you just see it canceled. After like 4 or 5 years, and the game hasn't come out yet. That's time is money. But
that's the thing.
Let me go ahead and we'll dive a little bit deeper into this Bayonetta story. So in the interview with VGC, let's see, Bayonetta creator Hideki Kamiya, I'm sorry if I butchered that, said that the studio is proud of the work that they put in Bayonetta 3. However, despite previously saying that fans might see more from the game this year, they remain cautious about announcing when fans might expect a reveal for the game, stressing that the decision to show it off was ultimately up to Nintendo. And then a little bit more. Yeah, it was announced in 2017, so it has been 4 years, as you said earlier, Justin. And yeah, everyone's clamoring to see more. I don't think there was much more to the story other than that. But it still is in development. I know Nintendo's technology hasn't changed much over the last couple of years, but maybe they do have a idea of what Nintendo is possibly planning in order to incorporate, the newest technology that they may be able to do, maybe as far as cross-platform if we do get a Switch Pro. But this is just me like trying to give Nintendo the benefit of the doubt for once, but I really don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking maybe they want to make this game more powerful. That it's too powerful for the current. So they want the Switch Pro, or like a more powerful Switch Pro, Switch Pro 2, whatever you want to call it, and possibly put it on there. But I mean, at the end of the day, I think it's kind of silly that they have not been able to show off literally like anything in almost 4 years. This coming December, so that's just. I mean, we gotta show the fans something. That's all I'm saying.
I mean, we're barely seeing Metroid Dread right now. I mean, we've gotten like 3 trailers over the last like 3 months. You think they could have spaced those out a little bit more, but now the game's about to launch any minute, So, Nintendo.
Yeah.
Let's see, and then, what were you gonna say? Go for it, Tutal.
Yeah, it's just Nintendo. I mean, you either love to hate him or hate to love him. That's what. That's what I say.
My brother is a serious Nintendo fanboy. Like the only reason he's got an Xbox 360 is because I bought it, and when I moved out, I was like, I Paul's already got one, so you can have it.
Oh, there you go. I mean, if he's giving away Nintendos, I mean, I know I could use one anytime.
Oh, yeah, I know this is a bit off topic, but I just had to say, I mean, have you heard the rumor that they might lower the price of the Switch?
Yes, I heard that from a reliable source that just divulged that information to me not too long ago. But yeah, I mean, it makes sense. Switch OLED's coming out in a couple months, so I mean, the Switch 2.0, as people call it, or The Switch, I don't know, it has a whole bunch of different names, but the Switch New, whatever it makes sense to lower that and then have the Switch OLED come out at what, the 350? It was 349, I believe.
Yeah.
And then have the Switch Lite at 200. So
Yeah. Well, it's only a benefit for Australians, I can tell you. Switch is still incredibly expensive over here. Probably not when you do the direct to USD translation of the cost, but any kind of cost reduction on my end of the planet would be amazing. I'd probably pick one up once it got a little bit cheaper.
That's awesome.
yeah, no, understandably, cost is a very important thing. It's so strange how, not strange, but it's just so interesting how the cost of products are so exponentially just more expensive, like in other countries. Australia, for one. I know Brazil is extremely, or the South America is extremely expensive also,
Look, money makes the world go round, as well as being time. It's it's a thing. Nintendo loves it.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, let's see. Let's jump off Nintendo. Guys, did you all have an opportunity to see the live stream this last Thursday?
I was there.
Yes, I did.
You were there? You what?
Sorry, no, I thought you were talking about the one on Thursday.
Yeah, no, I was talking about the one on Thursday. You were there? You were streaming from the event?
Well, no, I was with you.
Oh, you were here on the pod. Okay. Got it.
Okay.
Got it. Let's see. So when just in Grand Theft Auto, particularly because I found this extremely funny, as Celine mentioned earlier, she was, I don't know, did you say you were laughing about this earlier? I don't know. I might imagine that was something else.
No, I said the other thing was that I just, well, no, I was cracking. I said about cracking up about the thumbnail earlier, but no, I think I don't know. Grand Theft Auto was an eye roll for me. I've never been a big fan of it, and it's just like you're milking it. You're so milking it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go.
Yeah. Well. All right.
This ain't gonna delay the saturation point, people.
See, it's got to be the Skyrim of things, right? They're looking at Bethesda and going, they can do this every year. Why can't we? And they're probably making... Yeah, exactly. Well, I guess any kind of Nintendo recreation of a product is anticipated, but the Skyrim of things is just it blown to ridiculous proportions, yet still not being, the eye rolls are anticipated for it. Maybe they thought they'd lean into that a little bit with GTA 5 too. And it could be something that Rockstar can say and put on the box now. This exists across 3 console generations, which for people who've been along that entire journey, they're kind of saying, why? Give us number 6. We want the next one.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
it looks like we're not getting number 6, unfortunately. I mean, they're putting this on the next generation of consoles. I mean, this was what, 2 generations ago? PS3, Xbox 360. And, I bought it again on the PS4. The online was a lot better. So did that. I don't think I'll be buying it for the PS5. But, I mean, I've come to the realization, we're not going to see the next Witcher game. We're not going to see Mario Kart 9. And we're not going to see, GTA 6. So, I mean, it's... I
think you've just touched on what could be a very big conversation, especially the Witcher one.
Yeah.
But GTA 6 would definitely be in the works. There's been a lot of news from Rockstar over the last couple of years about their creative team changing, people who've been with Rockstar for 10 years or from inception moving on to other projects. There are things like that could be slowing down the development of GTA 6, but they'd also be in no hurry to move on to another game when they're still selling copies, making money off those shark cards in online.
Stop buying it, people. Stop buying it. Stop buying it. That's all. Don't. If you want to see GTA 6, don't buy it for the PS5.
Well, I'm a little scared because you just said you might not buy it for the PlayStation 5.
Yeah, it's still an option there.
Yeah. Even though it's free. Isn't it a free for the PS5 for everyone that that everyone gets a PS5, it's free, right?
I
No,
don't think
you guys don't remember that
so.
announcement?
No.
Okay,
No.
I never heard that.
okay. So
That's news to me.
when they announced the PlayStation 5 and their like the original first games, you know, the 20 games you can play for PlayStation 5 for free, like The Last of Us and like all their big hits and everything.
Mhm.
Pretty sure they said GTA was going to be free for PlayStation 5 players when it launches, but I could be remembering that wrong, or something could have changed in the meantime. But
To be honest, it wouldn't surprise me. The Epic
no,
Games Store last year had GTA 5 available for free for a week for
Mhm.
in their regular free game program. So anyone who acquired the game through the Epic Store at that point would still have it now. I think they've realized where the money gets made. It's not in the number of copies they sell. It's in the online content and the money that gets driven through that platform. So everyone's probably had their shot at it. Xbox would have had a GTA 5 free weekend. If PS5 wants to have it on the go constantly, maybe there's some kickbacks there from Sony PlayStation. What do they call it? SIE now?
Mhm.
Sony
Mm,
Interactive Entertainment.
Yeah.
yeah, that's how you.
And yeah, that could be a kickback to Rockstar for building more stuff for GTA 6 and maybe an exclusive. I don't know. But yeah, freebies of GTA 5, they're not very hard to come by these days.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially after you sell like over 100 million units. I mean, it's just
Yep.
it's all your money's being made off the shark cards and online. So
Mhm.
Yeah, pretty much. Last time I played GTA 5, they gave me free money. Like I didn't have to do anything.
all right.
Yeah.
So let's see. I don't know if there's anything else out of this that you guys want to talk about, but this is one that I just wanted to mention because it's kind of dear to my heart. No Man's Sky and the Review Redemption. After just having such high expectations for No Man's Sky when it did come out, and them just kind of breaking all the promises that they initially announced, and having the game being so isolating when you first started your game, but now for them to, it's been 5 years for them just to release so many free DLCs, and just kind of really spin everything around. Now it's so much a social game. It is a base builder game. It is, you know, it's an arca like a it's a Pokemon Snap like style game, like where you just like take pictures of creatures. Um, there's so many just aspects of No Man's Sky. You can build fleets and just take down other fleets. Like it has changed so significantly. Like I cannot not bring this up. Um, yeah, it's just been such a monumentous achievement with Hello Games that I am ecstatic to jump back in. My plan was to jump back in today before the podcast, but life happens, like we talked about earlier, so that didn't happen. But after the podcast is done, this is where I'm headed. I'm headed back to No Man's Sky. The last time I was playing, I ended up on some uh, uh, a planet with a toxic atmosphere to where it was just very difficult to get around, and I got to a point to where like I almost like am stuck on the planet. So I'm probably just like as soon as I jump back in, I'll probably just leave and head to the next closest planet. I'm probably only about 20 hours in, which is nowhere compared to I know diehards that play this game and they've been playing it since launch over the last 5 years. But I'm excited. I'm excited about everything that's happened. I'm excited that they just released a new DLC, and I can't wait to see like this game on PS5. Like I want to see them bring this over. Um, yeah. So any thoughts? Any ideas? Anyone else love this game as much as I do?
I haven't played it, but I'm curious to hear you as a player, what your experience has been like across that journey, because I watched the video that was posted in the show notes for this episode, and it is very uplifting. It's like inspiring music in the background. They're like, yes, we finally done it, guys. And the whole story leading up to the release, and even just after, maybe 6 months after that, was like you couldn't script that stuff for a TV show. Like the studio had their offices flooded, I think 9 months before release, and they lost a lot of their content. They went to do a number of press events before the actual launch, and they started over promising things like that feeling of isolation you mentioned. They said it was going to be a big expansive universe where you'd all share in that universe, but it didn't end up being quite what they said. Then it gets to launch, everyone is entirely unhappy, and Sony seems to throw them under the bus on that too. They said, well, we're releasing this game, but it's their fault. As that journey has kind of progressed over the last few years, has that been something that's made you sort of look back on the journey and think, okay, I'll just give them a bit of time to let them put this back together so it is what they intended it to be? Or have you been on the, I guess, the bad camp where they're like, no, I paid money for this game and you promised me an experience that I didn't get, so I'm very unhappy? Which camp do you think you fall into?
Probably more in the bad camp.
Okay.
So with that said, like there was the extreme, there was just the disappointed people, and then there was the people that just were like, it is what it is, but they enjoy the game for what it is, regardless of the broken promises and things like that. And as far as the bad camp, like I consider the bad camp the people that were sending them like death threats and just the people that like take the time to like downvote their videos and like write like the most miserable reviews and things like that. Like I never went that far. For me, it was an original like day one purchase for me. I was very, very excited about the game because I was at the PlayStation Experience back when they used to have those, and No Man's Sky was a big, for the 2 years. It was like 2-3 years that PlayStation Experience happened. It was like 3 years, I believe. So I went to 2 out of those 3 years, and it was such a grandiose, like it was PlayStation's headliner for 2 of those years. So for me, it was what I was looking forward to with the PlayStation 4. I was just like, oh my gosh, this is like the space sci-fi episodic open world venture that I want. You can literally fly into the planet, right? And you can fly out of the planet, and like your sole mission in the beginning, which it isn't now so much, was to find the
you find artifacts, right? And you translate languages and
yes, that's part of the experience. But in order to find kind of like the meaning of life, not the meaning of life, but like why the universe was made and how the universe was made. So the
center of the universe, right?
Yeah. You're traveling to the center of the universe to find out this, and that's how it started. But it's grown to be so much more. And every expansion I've like hopped back in, but I've always been so far removed because so much has been added every time. It's kind of daunting. So in order to be where I want to be with this game, I would have to, devote some serious time, which has been very difficult. But in seeing what they've done, and even now, like the biggest difference is when I jump in, I come across other players. So there is like help there. There are people there. Whereas in that first moment when you jumped into the planet, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, 5 years ago, there was no one. You were there. You're in a procedurally generated planet, and you may be in the perfect planet, or you may be on a planet that was where like I'm at right now, just like completely toxic, and you have to fend for yourself or reset the game, like delete your file and reset the game, and hope you end up in a better world. But yeah, no, it's as looking at the developer story and just seeing what you've been through. Like you said, you've like read up on what they've been through and everything with the flooding and everything. Yeah, that was devastating for them, and they did have to build a lot, build back up to where they need to be in order to launch this game. And I don't know if the game was ready at that time, but it doesn't matter at this point. Now we could all look back we can laugh about it and move on and be happy that this game exists, because it's absolutely an incredible game. And
The
yeah,
lesson there has
Yeah.
to be that short-term attention spans for very minute sections of time with a game aren't always going to be the indicator of success, right?
this is true. But at the same time, a game, I mean, not particularly in this sense, but a game should never launch broken or unfinished, or,
Yes.
but that's a different topic.
Yeah. I was hoping to
I
lean
don't-
into the positive comment for CD
Sorry.
Projekt Red, but I'm not gonna mention them.
I was
Yeah,
going to say, I
I'm
think
not-
the
I'm not-
moral of this development story is partially that small developers really should consider offsite backups.
Yeah, I think they should.
Yeah. We'd have to look a little bit closer into why they actually lost their stuff the way they did. It could just be that they just didn't do it for that week or something, but I know they didn't lose everything.
No.
Mm.
But backups are backups are backups. Good life lesson.
Yeah. One thing, F though. I mean, when we start doing Twitch streams, you should definitely stream that game. The way that it's improved over the years, and I was at the PlayStation experience with you, that second one. They were really pumping up that game. I remember, and
Yep.
a lot of people were disappointed. So it's definitely come a long way, and you know, me with games. I mean, if something's broke with it, it's really hard to draw me back in. But the fact that you just stuck with it and just gave it a chance for what it was, and now that you're there, that you're excited, you're just looking at how far the game has come. That's great. One thing I like about your gaming style is you are a patient gamer. Sometimes.
Well, thank you.
Yep.
But it's just because I follow them in particular. Hello Games is, they were very much in the forefront when talking about the game, and now they just dialed back. You never see I forget his name offhand, but the main developer that was like promoting the game anymore, and he even talked about like he had like he like talked about mental health like after that and everything, uh and just how that game affected him. And it's good to see. It's just good to see that they kind of just disappeared into the background, got out of like the limelight, and have moved forward and just concentrated on pumping out this content. And now I'm ready for their next game. It's been 5 years, so I know they're working on something.
Mm.
or not.
Or not. No, they're definitely working on something. All right, guys. Let's see. Let's go ahead and move on to our main topics if all of you are ready.
Yep.
All
Yeah,
right.
I am.
Sweet. All right. This week we will be discussing, like I talked about a little bit earlier, the biggest announcements and best trailers from Sony's PlayStation Showcase. We also will be talking about Epic Games versus Apple and that legal dispute about the in-app purchases. And then shortly after the PlayStation Showcase, the Tokyo Game Show announced their not their full schedule, but a good portion of what their schedule looks like. So we'll be just giving some predictions on what we might see there. Let's see. Let's go ahead and go a little bit out of order, guys. Let's go ahead and talk about Epic Games versus Apple legal dispute and what this means to you all. Let's see. So just a quick little recap. So essentially, Epic sued Apple in order. Let's see. Epic sued Apple in order to have or reduce the monopoly, or basically take the monopoly that they believe that Apple had on their gaming store. Because even though Epic was able to, create a browser, or not a browser, but they created a way for people to use the browser in order to purchase their games from the Apple Store. Apple was still requiring Epic to pay them, and there was a whole bunch of other things that was going on there. But that's kind of in short what happened. But Any initial thoughts from Matt or Justin or Celine?
Well, the biggest part of this to realize is that this isn't the end of a story. Even though all the news articles that are talking about this as the end of the case, it's only maybe us starting to approach the peak, the climax of the progression of this, because the monopolistic behavior of the app stores like the Apple App Store and Google Play and all those other ones, it's been a long time, and there's been more progress in the last 2 years across those in the last little while. We also can't forget that Fortnite kicked this off themselves. Like they did what they did deliberately when they made available a way for people to buy V-Bucks for cheaper. They wanted Apple to say, all right, where's my 30%? And they say no. Apple kicks them off. And then Epic goes, no, you can't do that. And then there's a lawsuit that comes about as a result of that. So a lot of the rhetoric around that is that they're doing it for the gamers. But at the end of the day, it's all about money again.
Yep.
Yeah, very true.
Yeah. I mean, I do think that it does feel like strong arming to some extent, but at the same time, it is it's a it is a private company. It is a private marketplace, for want of a better expression. Google is a bit looser because like they don't curate anywhere near as much as Apple does. So it's very much seen by Apple as a privilege to be on their app store in the first place. So and there's nothing inherently wrong with that. If you own, going to the old school example, if you owned a mall, you get to choose who gets to rent there. It's not an obligation for Apple to put who applies to go onto the app store. So I think Epic just needs to kind of realize that they've set themselves up for a loss on that front. But at the same time, the fact that they've said, it isn't fair for applications to be restricted through their marketplace is a win for smaller developers, I would say.
Yeah,
definitely.
And there are other. Oh, what were you going to say?
No, you go ahead, Ev.
Oh, I was just going to say there are other platforms, for people to purchase. It's just, unfortunately, most of those don't run on Apple. So
that's the monopoly thing, isn't it?
Yeah, that's the monopoly. So it's, but yeah, I was just going to go ahead and read a portion of this article in order to kind of bring more light on the outcome of that. But before I do, go ahead, and I would love to hear your point, Matt.
No point particularly. Oh, okay. Just driving the crowd. It's just the monopoly thing that we have to always remember, that the reason it's a big problem with Google and Apple is that they're in control of devices and the base foundational platform for which these app stores run. And again, Google's a bit looser. Like Celine said, you can sideload apps by taking on the risk yourself. But with Apple, they don't have any other app stores that they're permitting on that platform. So, slowly chipping away at that to enable outside of the store purchases for companies that would prefer to, with Apple not taking a cut. That's a good thing.
Absolutely. Let's see. And then, J-Man, before you jump in, let's see. I'm just going to go ahead and read this real quick. So this is a quick snippet from the article. Let's see. But anyway, so Apple will no longer prevent app developers from going around Apple services for in-app purchases. In effect, Apple will not claim a transaction fee from any purchases using services outside of their ecosystem. Developers will be free to include links to outside payment vendors of their choosing when the injunction goes into effect in 90 days. The date will be December 9th, though it could change if there's another conflicting legal order comes about. And I'm going to read the second part too. Judge Yvonne Gonzalez Rogers ruled against Epic on all other counts of the trial. And then it kind of just goes into detail about when this started and everything and what this is. But other than that, yeah, that's essentially the ruling, the final ruling. So
Yeah,
It'll be interesting the impact of this for other developers.
Mm.
The way that people will exploit this window after the 90 days, and that injunction goes into effect.
Yeah, I think they do need to make it more clear for when if you are ordering something through an app or through the service. I know an example happened with me the other day where I don't know if you guys watch wrestling, but AEW all extreme all elite wrestling. I wanted to watch their pay-per-view, and I thought I could order it through the app, and I did, but I was not able to watch it on my TV. And why? Because I paid to watch it on my phone, which is like ridiculous. So it's like I had to pay for it again to the direct people Bleacher Report to make sure I could watch it on my TV. So people just need to just make sure that just if are you paying Apple or Google, or are you paying the actual developers of the app? So this is something that people just need to be very wary of, in my opinion. I was
well,
able
you're
to
their
get my
favorite
money.
customer. You're their favorite customer, man, because you paid everyone on that one.
No. I got my money back for from Google.
Okay.
So yeah, I got my
That's good.
refund. Yeah, so. But yeah,
Measure
just be
twice,
careful,
cut
folks.
once.
Yeah, for sure. I learned my lesson.
All right. And then let's go ahead and jump into our next topic. Let's see. So there was this PlayStation conference, guys. And
Oh, there
yeah, there was a
was.
couple games that were announced. There was a couple surprises. There yeah, it was great. We actually streamed it live, and you can watch that on Facebook Live for Our View Gaming. You could also watch that on YouTube, and I think that's it. So, but anyway, let's jump into this. There was so much fun, so much great announcements. Justin, please tell me what'd you love from
Oh,
this conference? Because since you weren't with us.
oh man. Where do I start? Um, all right, I'll start with the heavy hitter first. I mean, I have a couple others, but Spider-Man 2. I mean, that blew me away. That they're continuing through the Spider-Verse, and we saw Venom. It's just I cannot wait for that game. I heard your reaction. You were saying it was going to be 2024, but you're a year off. Hopefully they stick to their word. It's 2023. I'm very excited, and I hope they bring in online 2-player co-op for this. That would be awesome. That would be game of the year right there if they did that. I was so blown away that Insomniac, they're not playing around. They really aren't. They're coming with some heavy hitters, Spider Man and Wolverine. I mean, even though we just got that little trailer, I mean, I'm pretty sure if what they do with the Spider Man games are totally awesome, they'll do the same thing with Wolverine as well.
Well, Insomniac as a studio has been pretty good, but I think that first Spider-Man really kicked down the door for them, didn't it?
Oh
Oh
hell
yeah.
yeah. That's just I cannot wait until pre-orders go up for this game. I'm paying in full right then and there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for about the one thing that you should mention about co-op, there was one particular scene. So it was, of course, it was a CGI. It was, it was all CGI trailer and everything. But there was one scene where Spider-Man and then Miles, they webbed up the one bad guy or whatever, and then they picked him up together and they slammed him at the same time. Yeah,
That
and
was
so
awesome.
so it was like, does that mean it's co-op? Does that mean or does that mean there's going to be like time-based events where you can bring in the other character at the same time? Does that mean the character is going to be AI and is just going to be traveling with you and assisting you like in certain parts of the game? Um, there was a lot there, and then even leading into that, there was the voice, very much so, and this has been speculated by a lot of people already. but the voice like that was narrating that entire thing sounded like Craven, the Craven the Hunter. I'm sorry, what was that?
Oh yeah, Craven the Hunter. Yeah, that's
And
Spider-Man
then
villain.
as you approach the alley, like Craven just stops talking, and then you hear like this like more sinister voice, and then in the alley in the pitch black, you just see that like flash of Venom's face. So I mean, I want to I want to be in the symbiote suit. Like that's what I want. With Venom the movie coming out, Venom, I wanted Miles to actually be in the suit versus actual Spider-Man. I want that to actually be a conflict, and I can see that mental struggle. I feel like Insomniac could do that so well, and just displaying like all Spider-Man has like the most issues out of any superhero like in the world. So I mean,
What
the
kind of
real
issues are we talking about there?
I mean, not issues, I would say, but he
Life
struggles.
biting him.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Life always seems to bite him in the rear, no matter how much good he does. So yeah, it's just I can really see an Insomniac taking advantage of that and just really displaying that like full frontal, almost like a Hellblade type of mental struggle. And I really would love them to like just dive deep into that on top of getting the suit and kicking Kraven the Hunter's butt and Punisher and Green Goblin and all these other characters. Sandman. Let's bring them all. Just bring all the classic characters. Yeah.
I'm so glad you said Sandman, because when I look at this game and what it promises, I want to see the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man 3 movie as a game.
Oh,
So that's where Venom first emerged in the movie world.
Mhm.
We had Eddie Brock there as well. Maybe he'll pop up in the game as the original symbiote, and there could be a tie into the films there. Maybe they don't seem to be focused on that too much, but yeah, I'm equally as excited for this for all those reasons as well.
Just to remind people, Eddie was actually referred to in the first Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movie. When we first see Jameson and Robbie is like, Eddie's been working on this for weeks. We can barely get a glimpse of him.
Yeah,
oh yeah.
that's a good way to set up for your future films, isn't it? Get a
Absolutely.
tie-in, makes it easy.
And it makes it exceptionally easy when you create a multiverse. Like every movie is going to have some type of multiversal like aspect, dimensions, portals, anything to make sure like all your continuity makes sense in some regard.
Justifies a reset and a reboot.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, pretty
I'm very
much.
interested to unpack the idea of Hellblade Senua's Sacrifice gameplay style in the head of someone who might be possessed by a symbiote. I think that I've never thought of that before. That's really interesting, because Hellblade was a great game for that, exploring mental illness and, well, not illness necessarily, but like an internal psychopathy with a character who was actually blind and had to listen for everything in their environment. That internal struggle might be interesting to see visualized in a game like that. But I'm also playing Psychonauts at the moment, so that is a game in very much the same vein, but with a completely different feel.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Like the end of that game is so nightmare fuel. I'm not going to say more than that, but yeah.
Well, I definitely want to
needs
hear about that later.
Sure.
But I'm not going to spoil it for him, but
Well, it's the second one that I'm on to, so please don't.
All right. And Celine, since you were with us the other day, I know we talked a little bit at the end of the live stream, but now that you've had a moment to like sit back, think about it, just review the games that came out. Was there any changes, or was there anything that you feel any different different about now that a couple of days have passed?
I mean, I would still say for me, because I'm a very story-driven gamer, Marvel has still stolen the show for me. Since we've watched it, I have, I don't know, Apollos has saw it the next morning, and we've talked about it. His attitude towards Gran Turismo is he'll believe it's out when it's out, because they are notorious for delays. But in fact, when they put the trailer separately, they put a splash page that's saying it's coming out in March next year. Because I don't remember seeing that when we were watching it.
Yeah, I don't remember that either.
Yeah, I think they did have an exact date for Gran Turismo 7.
Yeah. No, I thought not. But yeah, and his view of Alan Wake was that it's not really a remaster. It just struck him immediately as 360 graphics, and my memory of it was hazy, so I couldn't really comment on that one beyond that.
I think the big one with Alan Wake is how they're going to tie it into the Control universe. I think I've forgotten the name of the developer now, which sucks. It's got a 3 in there somewhere. But yeah, I think they're just trying to bring the conversation back to their games to start building out that universe and justify the 2 games.
Yeah. Ghostwire Tokyo intrigues me because I am a bit of a folklore nut, and I could spot various kind of creatures of Japanese folklore. You know, you may probably remember me commenting about the Snow Woman, or Yuki Onna, to use the Japanese term, for the trailer, during the trailer. That there were some others primarily humanoid in form. So that's, mixing the modern with the kind of old school folklore would be quite interesting, even though we're not entirely sure how you fight them in this. And I think apart from that, I think not a lot has really changed in terms of my opinions, and I'm very much wait for the reviews to come out person anyway, unless I'm already a huge fan of a franchise. So Persona is a really big example of that. I think that's the exception to the rule when it comes to pre-ordering.
Perfect. Well, I mean, there's some big ones that like I haven't heard mentioned yet, so I'm actually really shocked so far. Matt, how about you, man? What
God of War.
God of War.
I called it out last week in the podcast.
Ragnarok.
Got to tell you, look, I'm a big fan. Kratos beard right here, fully inspired.
For sure.
But that game, I've played that game 3 or 4 times over the last couple of years. The story always intrigues me. The way that the gameplay has been put together is excellent. The character development, particularly if you played the previous God of War games, where it's a tale of vengeance and just ridiculous violence, sometimes gratuitous sexuality. The God of War released a little while ago was a refreshing take on that character, and it looks like they're still going to keep doing the same. I'm not sure how far they're going to go with the gameplay, though. All of the elements that we saw in the trailer during that showcase were things that you could pick out of the combat from the previous game. So may not be a lot there in terms of progression of combat, but they could be keeping a lot of cards close to their chest on that one. It's usually a bit of story and then a bit of gameplay that you see when they do that release cycle. But the story of it, they left so many dangling ends at the end of the last game that looks like they're going to come through on for it. Especially seeing Tyr, the God of the Giants that you were chasing through that first game finally. It's going to be great. You also see Thor, which was teased at during one of the endings for the previous game as well. It just looks like they're blasting out that universe a little bit more. And it'll be a bit less lonely too. Looks like there's a lot of people in villages and stuff that you'll be able to either interact with or murder. I don't know. You never know where it's going to go with Kratos, but all in all, I'm incredibly excited to see what happens. Not more so than because I follow Alana Pierce, who is an Australian journalist come game writer for Santa Monica Studios. If you watch her content, you can see a lot of the emotional reaction she has for what she's contributed to that game. And that if you can watch any of that stuff, it just gets you more excited for it. Just God of War in general, great game franchise. It looks like they're going to be coming out with something really good. But that's not to say that Deathloop won't be that good either. That's coming out in a few days, even though it's been teased for quite a while. You guys have already touched the Marvel. I think we very quickly need to mention that Forspoken looks like it's going to be a full game, a very interesting premise, but with not a lot to it. From the trailer, I didn't get anything there that I can just kind of grab onto and say, yeah, I'm definitely going to be playing this, but I'll be keeping an eye on it because just the gameplay looks excellent. And need to mention Borderlands Tiny Tina's Wonderland. That's
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why do you say
So
it like that?
how many
it's,
of you don't like Tiny
Yeah.
Tina?
It's not that. I mean, I've never been big on shooters anyway. I think I just get fed up with them. But the thing that made me think that is, so my brother-in-law is a big D&D fan, and he also likes Borderlands. And then he and my husband's childhood friend is a big fan of Baby Metal, whose song was in the background of the trailer. And I didn't realize that at the time. I mean, I knew about the D&D thing, and I knew that he had tried Borderlands and gotten fed up with it. But the way he expressed it is, it looks like it was focus tested for those two.
Yep, definitely. But I think the general feeling after the DLC that came out for Borderlands 2, it doesn't surprise me that they blew that out into an entire game, because I think that was some people's most favorite part of Borderlands 2. For the reasons you're saying there, Celine, like not being a fan of shooters, I think Borderlands is the shooter for non-shootery people. Also, they call it the Schluter now, I think. A shooter looter.
Which sounds just wrong in so many ways.
It
but
sounds
that's the
uncomfortable.
best part. Yeah, best part about Borderlands. Everything sounds uncomfortable and not right.
Yep. Nothing's off the table with Borderlands. But that mixture of D&D, they did it incredibly well in the DLC. I'd be keen to see how they fleshed that out into a full game, especially with how Borderlands 3 didn't get the fanfare that they expected. But yeah.
Touching back on since you brought up God of War, it just reminded me when I first saw it. I don't think I mentioned it, but like the helmet Thor was wearing just made me think, oh, they might have lifted from Shin Megami Tensei there, because I'll put you guys an image to look at, but the helmet was just like looked so similar, and I'm like, I try not to giggle.
Well, there's a Celtic tattoo on this image that you've posted there too. There's going to be Viking folklore all over the place. Yeah. None more so than now, because God of War was so popular when it came out with that remake. I know I'm angling for a tattoo now. Well, another one anyway.
Let's see. I mean, there's been.
I gotta ask. Sorry to interrupt. Is anyone?
No, you're fine.
Excited about? Is anyone excited about the Knights of the Old Republic?
Yeah. I was just waiting my turn so I can jump into it. But yeah, no, I'm super excited about the Knights of the Old Republic. There's been a bit of backlash, the fact that it's a PS5 timed exclusive, which is, I agree and I disagree all at the same time, because of course you want to like get time exclusives or just exclusives in general to sell consoles. Not that they're having any trouble selling consoles, but you want to keep those consoles selling. So anyway, I don't even care about that. The Knights of the Old Republic, it really broke that threshold, like that wall between like computer MMOs and then like MMOs on consoles. And part of the reason why I probably didn't come to the PS2 was because just the architecture, like the way the Xbox was built, of course leans more into a PC architecture. But just the fact that like this is Star Wars set like 4,000 years before the movies, and this is like BioWare in their prime. This is like pre Mass Effect and everything, and this is just where they really, like, I felt like leaned into everything that made them who they became to be. Yeah, I mean, I love, who doesn't love something about Star Wars? You don't have to love everything about Star Wars, but just like it's so ingrained in our culture now. I'm so excited to play this huge, massive, just RPG all over again in high def graphics, and hopefully they take advantage of. Hopefully it's not just a remaster and it's more of a remake. I always get those confused. And I hope they just really lean into the power of these consoles, and it's just not a carbon copy. Like Alan Wake seems like a carbon copy of the original, and I don't imagine them doing anything different. With the new Dead Space that's coming out, they're taking that original game and they're keeping that feel, that atmosphere, but they're taking all the original notes that they could not include in that game to really flesh out the game, along with adding new features, is what they talked about when they did their little test run the other week. And then I really hope just the Knights of the Old Republic just takes everything that was kind of not to its highest degree and just pump it up times 11, because the game deserves it. The game was wonderful back when it came out, but I love a great RPG. And this is my universe. So I'm really excited about this. But yeah. And then
Nostalgia.
it's nostalgia
Definitely.
for sure.
Nostalgia.
But this wasn't even. I mean, it's nostalgia and it's not, because this has nothing to do with the movies in terms of like this like kind of sets up like everything in the movies. If you ever like wondered like what like how the movies got to where they were, how the rebel forces got to where they were, and the Empire got to where they were, this is the game you play. And there's so many stories that develop through this that like you get through this game and you're just like, where does it go? And then of course they made the Knights of the Old Republic 2, and they didn't even finish that game. like they cut off a huge section of the end. So like even then, like with that game, like you got to go through that game and then there's just so many just dead ends and it just stops. So hopefully with this game, and hopefully it does well, which I'm pretty sure it will, then the Knights of the Republic 2 will come out, and then they can flesh out that game to everything that it should have been when it released also. Man, that's a mouthful.
It's a lot to talk about, but I didn't play a lot of the Star Wars games or do much Star Wars lore as I was growing up as these things came out. I did play Star Wars Episode 1 on the PS1. Brilliant little pixelated thing following Obi-Wan around, which was great. But I always heard of KOTOR, and I was like, okay, this thing that came out ages ago that had something loosely to do with Star Wars, KOTOR this, KOTOR that, having no idea that it was Knights of the Old Republic. And when that joined for me, it made sense how impactful it is to the rest of the universe. Something that I would like to know, though, obviously LucasArts had a strong stake in a lot of Star Wars game development for a long time. Is KOTOR developed in partnership with Lucas Games at the time?
Ooh, at the time, I don't know. That is a great question.
Because the Star Wars properties
research on that one.
Star Wars is currently owned by Disney, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if that's the case, then there could be a large pocket of money for maybe KOTOR 3 coming down the line, and they want to measure what the uptake is like for this one. So you may be getting a continued story experience, more bang for your buck than you think.
You're teasing me, man. Did you just you're telling me everything I want to hear, but if it doesn't come to fruition, I'm going to be devastated.
Mass Effect. Yeah. We could be looking at something brand new from there, and there was a remaster of that. Like, follow the money, follow the release schedule on things. Fast gaming turnarounds, the number of re-releases we're seeing now. Perhaps a lot of studios with a lot of old assets that they just want to leverage to see what the bigger markets are. Dead Space being one you've already mentioned. I'd say if it's not on the thing, if it's not on the cards, then they're definitely thinking about it.
Absolutely. I completely agree. And then I can't believe no one said anything about Wolverine yet. Even though it was just a CGI trailer, just the fact that we're getting a Wolverine game. Like, this is happening. Wolverine being one of the more popular, Marvel characters. The X-Men movies really focused in on him. In Marvel vs. Capcom and Marvel vs. Capcom 2, he was like one of the go-tos as your main fighting game characters. And he's been in like every X-Men game that ever existed. Wolverine is just a staple. And now we're going to be able to see him, in his own game and done by Insomniac at that, where Insomniac's technically building out its own universe. I don't know if Wolverine's going to be in the same universe as Spider-Man, but I damned as hell am crossing my fingers that, you know, I I don't know, that maybe I get to like fight against Spider-Man at some point as Wolverine, since they do have such beef, and Spider-Man's quips are so annoying sometimes that like Wolverine just wants to kick his butt. I can't wait to see what that is, and what the prospect of what that could be. Uh, yeah, Wolverine. Gosh,
Well, with Wolverine, I mean, if Insomniac is making a Wolverine game, maybe they'll make a full blown X-Men game. Who knows? I mean, I think that'd be really something to come down by if Insomniac were to do that. But I mean, with Wolverine, though, I mean, I think there's a lot of possibilities there with Wolverine. I mean, like you said, it was just a quick trailer, but the fact that it is Wolverine, I wasn't a big, as you know, Finance, I was not a big fan of the X-Men growing up, but he was one of the characters I liked on the show, so, well, he was the most popular, but I mean,
Well, he
yeah,
had a whole movie cycle dedicated to
yeah,
him, didn't he?
yeah. So, I mean, you can't think of any better X-Men to revolve a game around other than Wolverine, at least starting with. But yeah, so I'm excited about this next X-Men Wolverine game. So I mean, let's see what Insomniac does, because they're knocking it out of the park with Spider-Man right now. So I mean, yeah, they can
I
only
want to
go up.
see. I want to see Insomniac do a Deadpool game. Deadpool has had a number of games, and there is a complex relationship there between Wolverine and Deadpool, or Hugh Jackman and Ryan Reynolds, however you want to look at it. But yeah, I think they're probably looking at something like that,
I could
especially
definitely
with
see that.
yeah. Like none more so than Spider-Man 2 with Venom coming out,
Mhm.
like that inexplicable connection between the two, even though they're kind of tangentially related. Deadpool having a gaming base already in pre-developed games. It's also loosely a Sony property, kind of, not really attached to Marvel, and it makes great strides in the more recent films to illustrate that quite explicitly. um, but it is a lot of Sony Marvel properties that are still in control of Sony Entertainment, so we could be seeing a lot of leveraging there
Until
from the
Disney buys it.
studios. Well, we'll have to see, won't we?
Yeah.
Maybe Sony is bolstering their arm to make the purchase a little bit more tantalizing. But I would like to opt for the non-cynical option there and just say that we're going to get some good games. Like you said, Wolverine looks like an exciting one. But who do you think is going to do the voice acting for it? Do you want to see Hugh Jackman do it?
Yeah, I would.
I don't know. I've never heard Hugh Jackman do like VO for like a game or a cartoon or anything like that. Not that I know of, at least. I'd say, has he done any Wolverine for any of the cartoons or anything that you guys know of?
Not that I know
I
of.
think he's only done the films. But if you
Okay.
ask anyone about Wolverine, they're probably going to know about film Wolverine more so than any of the other properties, unless they grew up with the cartoons back in the day. Been saying that like it's a very loose connection. And I mean, we had Logan that really tied off that movie storyline. It could be Hugh doesn't want to do anymore, but it could be interesting. There's a lot of VO possibilities there, unless we just see Troy Baker jump in for that again.
Troy Baker does everything.
Diverting into films for a bit. You know, George Clooney said he would never do VO, and then he ended up voicing the title character for Fantastic Mr. Fox because he liked it that much. So, you know, you never know.
You never know.
You never know. I mean, anything is possible. Definitely.
I mean, yeah, I don't need Hugh Jackman to play the part. I just need the part to be done well. I mean, for me in particular, just if someone can just dial it in and be Wolverine. Like I don't know the original VO actor for the cartoon, from back in the 90s, but for me that was Wolverine. Yeah, that I could pull it up right now, but it's not that big of a deal. But for me, like that was Wolverine's voice. Like when I used to read the comics, I used to read it in that voice. So if I can get that feeling just with whoever jumps in that part, I'll be happy. Let's see. And then Matt, I'm sorry, I'm still kind of going down my list. I'm just going down very slowly. You were talking about God of War and how many times you played through it. So I still haven't finished God of War. I apologize.
No spoilers, guys. We don't want to ruin it.
No spoilers. I do remember Atreus being kind of an ass towards the middle and end of God of War after he found out some things about himself. So, and then he still seemed to kind of be a jerk in this trailer. He still seems to kind of like not. It seems like he still feels entitled. Is there anything that you can tell me what you
Without
expect?
telling you.
Yeah, what that you expect of Atreus in this game? Because for me, with him being so much older, and for him kind of dictating his movements and what he does in order to help you in battle before. I mean, I really see him as a playable character, along with Kratos. Like maybe like a swap in like between them at certain times, or maybe like you get separated and you see Atreus, like you get to play as Atreus, like going through a good portion of the story, especially with everything that happened with his mom and everything. Do you? How do you feel? How do you feel about Atreus moving forward in this game? Because I know we all know Kratos, we all know what he's been through and what he's going through, but he's really taken on this dad role. So
Yeah.
we're shaping this kid, and I feel like we're going to continue to do that in this game even more so.
Yeah, it's definitely been postulated in the time in between the games, the first game and now, that Atreus will probably have a bigger part to play in this one. It was, the first game was very much Kratos' journey while we relearn about him and his relationship to Atreus and how that changes over time. There's a lot of like stepdad vibes there as well, connection with your immediate family where those connections might have previously been broken somehow. I think that's a part of the emotional journey in that first game that's really important. And the fact that that relationship hasn't resolved for that first game for you yet tells me at least how far you are through it and how much you have to go. I'd say you've got like maybe 20-30% of the game left, depending on how much you want to explore. Definitely finish it though, because there's a lot of mentions in the trailer that we saw earlier this week that links ideas together that you get at the end of that game. Like it's wouldn't be a spoiler to say anymore because you were there, but he mentions this relationship to Loki. That's the end of the first game is very much a stepping stone into exploring what Atreus actually is, who he is, his relationship and his mother's relationship to the overarching God universe, Asgard and the Viking gods, that Norse mythology aspect. It's still being explored. Like there's so many aspects of the game that were missed in that first game too. The fact that there's a world that you can't even visit. There's no way you can get it in the dial-up, but it's there. Like there's a lot of clues that's linking together parts of that Norse mythology. But Atreus will play a big part. I would expect there to be, if not some co-op aspect to it, there being divergent stories where they get separated. I think it's really interesting that you picked up on that. He's a little bit of a whiny brat in this, maybe, because I think they've had to grow the character in game with as the voice actor has grown as well, because it's very clearly the same voice actor doing it. What it reflected to me when I saw Atreus for the first time there was the Brandon Stark of things, mostly because the nose, he seems to have a bit more nose to grow into in this new trailer for the game, which means that they're probably going to grow the character with him. Could mean that there's a God of War 3. Calling it here first, guys. But yeah, that's a lot to say without saying very much. But I will say that you do reconcile with Atreus to some degree. I expect you to come into this new game having finished the first one with maybe a much kinder or forgiving view towards Atreus's behavior in the trailer.
Okay, that's a lot of expectations. I feel the weight on my shoulders now, but I'm gonna go. Yeah. I'm gonna have to go finish that game.
Definitely do.
I didn't finish it on my end either. So, but yeah,
if I am we got to shut down the podcast. We got to go live stream this now.
We'll come back when you're finished. It's all good. But seriously, it's it's one of those games that is a must play. The amount of, like, it is a complete story in and of itself, still leaving you wanting more. And the way that you connect with the characters and then disconnect with them, Atreus and Kratos' relationship, like, is obviously the biggest one. But you've got I forget their names now. It's been a little bit of time, but it sucks. The head that you've got strapped to the back of your body.
Oh yeah, yeah, I did see
Scottish fellow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mimir is that character's name.
Yeah.
Their relationship too is very interesting. And you've got Brock and his brother, the dwarven blacksmiths. There's like a lot of relationships in that. It's a very story-driven game, despite having incredible combat and action. It's just, we could do a whole podcast on God of War, I think. I'm going to stop there because we're going to take up all the time for God of War. But
Nope.
just finish
No
it.
problem.
Just finish it.
Yeah.
I appreciate you.
We're gonna have to do a roundtable for God of War. We just got to finish the game. Everyone finish the game. We'll definitely try to get it in on a roundtable episode for sure.
Any excuse to play it again, I'll do it.
I have an. Oh, were you gonna say something?
I was just gonna say, on top of actually playing games myself, where there's sometimes there are games that Paul and I will set aside and we'll just sit through them together, even if they're just like one-player games. That's what we do with the Ace Attorney games and a bunch of others.
Wish I could get my wife to do that. That's not happening.
Yeah, same here.
So I know this is totally unrelated. I'm gonna just do a quick story. So there was, and this was the first and last instance of this, but when we first started dating, she knew I was into video games. She bought me Assassin's Creed.
I heard the story.
I don't remember which Assassin's Creed. It was like Brotherhood or 3 or something. Or this is like 12 years ago. Anyway,
I don't know.
No, she didn't buy me Revelations. I bought that later for like super cheap. But yeah, she bought me Assassin's Creed, and like what's the first thing you do when someone buys you a game? Like I opened it up. I thanked her so much, and I was like, I asked her, I was like, do you mind if I play it? And she's like, no, I don't mind. I was like, okay, cool. Started playing, she sat there and watched me. 3 hours passed by and she's like, I'm gonna go. I'm like, what, why? Like, you're not having fun. And she was having the worst time, and I'm surprised she didn't break up with me that day. She was just like, no, this was not fun. We're never doing this again. So that was the first and last time where I just sat there and had her watch me play a game for any significant amount of time. Now, if we do play games, we'll play something like quick. We'll play like Overcooked, or we'll play some Bomberman or something quick where it's just like a quick match and we can get it over with, and she's involved. But can't do that anymore.
Well, the reason I bring up God of War was one of those games, so yeah.
Yeah. It's a great game for it though, because even sitting back as a player, it's very cinematic. But you do have to be very selective with your company sometimes, perhaps entice them with what they actually want. It's very fortunate that, Celine, you've got a partner that's into the same kind of things that you are. I think I'm probably in a similar position to you there, Finesse. And I never sit there and with my wife and watch games. I know that she's not going to be interested in just sitting there passively and watching my enjoyment. It's a very selfish way to go about it sometimes, but sometimes I'll try to catch her with games that are interesting. I know she came to me with the first PAX Australia that was in Melbourne, and at the Sony PlayStation showcase that year, they had Everybody's Gone to the Rapture, which was very interesting walking simulator about discovering the stories in a town that contains nobody. There was Edith Finch. Can't remember the full name of that one, but that was a very curious game too. It was very story driven, about picking up different items to find out the story, but you experience every story element too. That interested her as well. And I said, should I buy these games for you when they come out and we can watch them and play them together? And she's like, sure. And unfortunately, we never got to them. My most recent success with my wife has been Power Washing Simulator, which is
What?
much more. I know, right? It's much more of a catharsis than the actual game itself. Like it's tapping into her inner need for, and mine as well. Like that's the only reason I recommended it. Really, that kind of feeling you get for power washing things with a power washing thing. It's just watching that dirt wash away. The logic, the organization.
I used to do that as a job. I mean, it is kind of cathartic. Yeah, so I understand that, but
Yep.
that's just an interesting one. That
Yeah, it'll surprise you. You have to be selective though. Like I wouldn't make her sit through God of War. Really, I know that the violence might be a little bit too much, but yeah, you're not alone. I guess I'm trying to say.
Oh
that.
no, I definitely know that. Let's see. All right, so before what's up, Too Tall? Did you have another point?
Yeah, well, I mean, just to add, my wife, she walked in on me while I was playing GTA 5, and of course, I had to be in a strip club. So,
did you like jump up and like turn the game off immediately, block the TV, just like
no.
No, you got to lean into it. You say,
Yeah.
"Look, I'm playing with Candy. Candy is working very hard for college.
Yeah. Pretty much.
You got to own
it. That and then we had DS Lights back in the day, and then I got a new Super Mario Brothers DS. I got her one, and then she wanted to play the game, so I'm like, okay. And then I hadn't beat it yet. She beat the game before I did. I'm like, what the hell? Another funny story.
I did try that. I got her the 360, and that was my excuse for getting the 360. So I did try that, and no, she never played it, so I just took it back. And then I'm just gonna mention these last two games super quick because we've kind of beat this to death. But you guys already talked about it. Tiny Tina's Wonderland. Extremely excited about that because I'm that person that you spoke about that loves
loves a shooter that isn't a shooter.
Exactly. Thank you so much. Says it best. Matt says it best. So, and then of course, the last one was Guardians of the Galaxy, which is coming out, I believe, October 26th. So that's just right around the corner. And that, with the game being so close, especially out of this list right here, I'm very, very, very excited about that one. The humor seems to be mostly there. The art style, as far as like the characters, is pretty good. It seems a little bit weird, but with Marvel kind of lending their licenses and allowing developers to build their own worlds and their own universes with their characters and taking a different take on them, I love that. I'm so kind of weird that you can only play Peter Quill because he's like, I would rather play Gamora, but or Rocket the Raccoon or even Groot. Yeah. But it just being able to bring them in as assist characters seems like an interesting style, and I really am interested by the story. Just the fact that you can pick your dialogue, and your dialogue does affect how your characters respond to you throughout the game. Seems very interesting, very Mass Effect, like we were talking about earlier with other games. But yeah, I'm super excited about that one, and that'll probably be a day one pickup for me. So I'll probably jump off of Hades, and then I'll probably start playing that.
Very good. The soundtrack looks excellent too. The movie was all about that soundtrack. I think the game will probably match that.
The game definitely seems to be doing that. I know for the reveal during the PlayStation event, they did have stock songs playing that weren't from the actual game. So I feel like they're keeping that very close to the chest in order to keep that as a surprise for all of us as we play through the game.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm excited about that game. So yeah, I can't wait to. I'm still on the fences if it's going to be a day one pickup for me, but I am excited to see the reviews and just the whole gameplay and everything for it. So
absolutely,
I don't want to cut things short, but How do we feel about the Uncharted collection getting a PS5 and PC? The what is it, Lost Legacy and Uncharted 4 Thief's End. Those were the two games mentioned, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
was gonna mention this, but I just didn't want to end it end this topic on a angry note. As the way I feel about it, I'm so aggravated. And then not the fact that it's coming to PC, but just the fact that this was part of the showcase. Like we've already got a remaster or a remake of these games, whatever you want to call it, given to us last generation, and just for this to be highlighted for the PlayStation 5 showcase, it was like not even a step forward. It was just like a step back for me, and it was like why? It was almost like very similar to the Grand Theft Auto feel that I got. It was almost like I felt like they wasted my time by showing me some of the games that they showed me. In regards to showing me Grand Theft Auto again, by showing me the Uncharted series again, while wonderful games, especially 4 for me, it it was just so unnecessary. I don't know. They could have put this out on a blog post and I would have been fine with it. But that's just how I feel about it. But how did you brought it up, Matt? I'm very curious to see how you feel about this entire series.
Coming to
How did you
PC is
bump-
great, even though I played those two games that were mentioned. But it's a tentpole. I think it would be remiss of them not to do something like this for a new console in its new cycle at the very beginning, particularly when there's people who haven't picked up the console yet. Like looking at this list, just because you mentioned that you got Gran Turismo, and I mean, I don't think the Spider-Man games would be a tentpole just yet. I mean, Borderlands isn't, Rainbow Six isn't, Deathloop is a Bethesda. It's cross-console. That's probably the last Bethesda game we'll see on PlayStation, maybe. Who knows? I think if they didn't mention Uncharted, it would have been something else that we've seen before. It's just, that's always been a collection on Sony, and probably the big announcement there is that it's coming to PC. That's probably the biggest part.
Can't you already play Uncharted 4 on the PlayStation collection that they give if you're PlayStation Plus subscriber? Yeah, so it was like kind of like okay, like
for
really?
for PlayStation 5, yeah. And then that's what like this showcase was supposed to be like dedicated for. But I understand it coming to PC, and it seems like PlayStation, they did so well with Horizon Zero Dawn on PC. And then there was another game that they recently brought to PC. Does anyone remember offhand what that was before Horizon? Oh, Days
No.
Gone.
Days Gone, yeah.
They brought Days Gone to PC also, which did extremely well on PC. So with them bringing those to PCs, yeah, it seems like they're really like Sony's definitely interested in that extra money, and that they're definitely bringing that push towards PC. So I do understand that aspect. It just for this particular showcase, it wasn't what I wanted to see. But
To
The
add
one thing
insult
we
to
have to-
injury, sorry. I just double checked. Though I don't see any mention of Lost Legacy, but A Thief's End was on the PlayStation Plus collection, which is basically if you have PS Plus and you buy a PS5, you get it for free. So that I'd say putting that on the show, when you bear that in mind, I would say that's just that putting Uncharted 4 in the PlayStation Showcase was probably a bit much.
Here is the other thing that I try to remember with this stuff too, because they're trying super hard, especially after the conversation we had on the podcast last week about the Horizon Zero Dawn, Horizon
Forbidden
blah,
West.
blah, blah, whatever. Forbidden West. There you go. The conversation with that was, all right, here's 12 different packages to buy this thing. If you've got a PS5, you buy this one. If you've got a PS4, you buy this one. There's no in between. There's no upgrade path. But then they revised that 24 hours later to say, yes, there is an upgrade path, and for future products as well. I think they're trying to establish very, very explicitly that there is a PS4 and a PS5 version for everything. And it could be because they want these kind of big moments to hit the players hard the way that it isn't. When something is released on PS5, it's like a brand new game, but it's actually not. That it's a different product that they're selling as a different product because of the confusion where you buy something and there's two versions and you download the PS4 version and it releases the console. Sometimes you had to get the PS4 version before you could download the PS5 version. There was a lot of confusion there, but I think they may be trying to establish this as a model of selling behavior for them, where you pick a game, you pick your console. But obviously, it's not hitting you guys the way that they might be expecting it to, where you get excited when this game that you've used to on the old platform is now on the new. It might be a failure on their part. And I'd say the messaging is going to change in the next 6 months if the sentiment is the same from everybody.
Yeah,
yeah, definitely.
I feel like the marketing has been so wish-washy on, especially cross generational. It's been very wish-washy because in the beginning of all this, prior to the PS5 launching, they said they believe in generations, and then they said there was going to be a divergence. Like they said there's going to be a PS4 and there's going to be PS5. And they said you're gonna have to buy the games for both, but it's just been so muddled and muddy and just not explicit on what their plan is this entire time, and that's exactly why they had 9 different versions like last week, and had to go back on their word because they said one thing, they did another, and this has been a continuing trend and what they've been marketing to the customers. So
it will grow ever more confusing. The fewer and fewer consoles that can be sold, the more and more games they need to release that have to be available on the previous console version in order to sell games. It's just going to get more and more confusing for them, I think.
They need to just come up with a plan and stick with it. Stop changing the plan. That's what they need to do.
Well, not to push the point too far, but I think their original plan was everyone's going to have a PS5 by now, and the PS4 is just going to be in all the Best Buys or the secondhand stores selling stuff. But that was shot in the arm at the start of 2020, probably. Yeah. It's a very complicated area, I'd say. Again, it rolls back to money, as inevitably it does. But yeah, not to explain away your frustration, but I think the context would probably help reveal a little bit more about why it was there.
Yeah, anyway, for sure.
I can see that.
I'm no more or less excited. I know the game is going to be the same, but I thought it was.
All right, guys. Well, we're running a little bit long, so we're actually going to skip the Tokyo Game Show predictions. We are going to hit the release rundown, what we're playing, and we're going to close this show. But let's see. Was there any last words about any of the other games before we move on? Nope, that sounds like resounding no.
No.
Perfect. All right. So for the release rundown, we have Cruisin' Blast on the Switch for September 14th. We have Deathloop coming to PlayStation 5, PC, September 14th. We have another game called Eastward on Switch, PC, September 16th. Skatebird, yes, I'm so excited, which was delayed, but now is coming out to Switch and PC, September 16th. I'm sorry, that was Eastward. We have Skatebird coming to Xbox, Switch, PC, and Linux, September 16th. Origami, PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, PC, September 17th. Ni no Kuni 2, Revenant Kingdom coming to Switch, September 17th. Toem on PlayStation 5 coming to Switch, PC, September 17th. Kena Bridge of Spirits coming to PlayStation 5, PlayStation 4, and PC, September 21st. Sheltered coming to PC, September 21st. World War Z Aftermath coming to PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, PlayStation 4, and Xbox One and PC, September 21st. Celine, I know you're going to buy all these games, okay? We all don't have it like you, but what games or do any of these games stand out for you at all?
So I just picked up the stealth bundle from Humble. So I'm going to play the first Aragami before picking up the second one if I like the first. Of course, I briefly touched on it when we were popped up on the before the live stream on Thursday, but on Friday, one thing that wasn't mentioned here, I don't know if you guys mentioned it next week. Tales of Arise came out on Friday, so
I think I mentioned it last week.
I got word yesterday that it's had more players on Steam than the rest of the Tales of released there combined, so that's a good sign. But yeah, once I finish the game I'm working on, I'll probably look into picking that one up.
Nice.
But yeah, so those are the ones that kind of stick out to me. So
do you have an opinion on Ni no Kuni, Celine?
So I've only played the first one, and I do find the collectathon was a bit dragging on a bit on that one. I have Revenant Kingdom on the PlayStation, so I will look at playing that one at some point. But yeah, and from what I've seen, it does look pretty good. If you liked the first one, you probably will like the style will probably feel at home, but you don't have to play the first one to play the second. I think technically speaking, the first one was kind of completing the storyline of a series that was region locked to Japan. So yeah, so that 2 is a whole new arc from what I've seen.
Interesting. Sorry, I've always been curious whether I should dive in or not. I'll give the first one a look.
I'll I say if you like that kind of like the collective like Pokemon style collectathons, there is that element to it, which you might like, but if you get fed up with it after a while, then you can do. Like I've tried completing Apollo's finished Wrath of the White Witch, but I have not because I'll just get like I won't have the right familiars because there's so much chance involved, and it's just like ugh.
Fair enough. Sorry, F.
No, keep it going. And Matt, what? No, Jay, man, you gotta wait, man. You gotta wait your turn. Matt, what games do out of this list, if any, do you feel like you'd love to play or that you are gonna play?
Deathloop I will play eventually. I don't think I'll pick it up when it first comes out though. Aragami 2, I bounced off the first one. I'm looking to jump back into it again for my other podcast, Plug, Restart Games, if you want to check that out. But Kena Bridge of Spirits, that one looks like it's like a Pixar style, like cute combat game. I don't know, a little bit of an RPG. That's been teased for a while and has been delayed for quite a bit. So I might have a look at picking that up depending on the price. But otherwise, not much stands out for me there.
I mean, that was like 3 games, but okay.
3 out of like 10.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. All right. Yeah. And Justin, you were eager to jump in, sir. So it is all yours. What games are you excited about here?
Well, here, I mean, I hate to say it, but Cruis'n Blast. I'm actually surprised Nintendo's bringing the Cruis'n series back. I mean, we've seen the arcade. Now, hey, it's coming to the Switch apparently. You can race as a car or race as a Triceratops. It's pretty interesting.
You can race as a dinosaur?
Yeah, I don't know if you got to see the trailer, man. It's kind of... Check out the trailer if you have some time. I'll send it to you tomorrow, and you'll be like, what the hell? You can race as a hovercraft. You can race as all sorts of things in this game. But
okay,
yeah, Cruis'n Blast. I mean, depending upon the price, I'll definitely want to check it out. Maybe not day one, but later on down the line if we see a price cut for it. But yeah, we'll see.
All right. Well, and for me, let's see. I would have to say Skatebird. That, as you probably already knew from my reaction earlier.
A little bit excited there.
I mean, you could be a parakeet doing kickflips off a half pipe. I mean, who doesn't want that? Who doesn't want to be a pigeon doing like I don't just like a 720 like
I'd rather be a hawk.
I don't know. I don't know the spectrum of birds, the spectrum of birds that they have on this game. But so far, the game looks just like the most lighthearted, fun skating game ever. But it seems like you can be diehard in this game, and and kick some butt as many different types of birds. So yeah, it just, I don't know. I don't know why I like skating games. I never could skate. Maybe that's why. I've never I've never had the ability in life. So I just want to be a bird and do it. You know.
There's an experience that people have grown up with through the Tony Hawk games where like I was never a skater. I played 1, 2, 3, Underground 1, Underground, like there's very few Tony Hawk games that I didn't hit up. In a post Tony Hawk world, games like this, they hit different.
They do. I did love Tony Hawk. Well, I still love Tony Hawk. But yeah, and then I think the only other game on here that I would love to play would be Kena Bridge of Spirits. Like you were saying earlier, Matt. Just yeah, it seems cute, fun, but like it definitely has. It seems like technical. Like I was watching gameplay of this game a month or two back, and just the ability to use little Pikmin type of characters in order to like boost your battle style. Using your staff as a actual like bow and arrow and shooting like energy type of arrows. Yeah, it just I love magic. I love magic in any particular game. Like I'm drawn to those games. Like even earlier, like I didn't even mention earlier, but Forspoken, just that whole mashup between like the new world and like this magical mythical world spoke to me a lot, and I'm actually looking forward to that game too. So just these type of games like really really speak to me, like I've said like 5 times already. But anyway, to finish out the podcast, I would love to know what each of you are playing. And Too Tall, before you jump in again, what have you been playing, sir, and why? And stop and just stop immediately.
You know what I'm gonna say? I'm gonna hold it up. Sonic Colors, and this is why, because I got a keychain.
So you didn't get the game for the game; you got it for the keychain.
Well, no, I'm playing the game. It's I got I got through the first world so far, so good. No glitches, no nothing. Why am I playing it? Because it's Sonic, man. 30 years.
All right, nostalgia, gotta love it. Celine, what are you playing right now? And yeah,
what did you get with
it?
So at the moment, I got a digital deluxe edition, so it did come with a soundtrack and a digital art book. But at the moment, lovely. I am playing East 9 Monstrum Nox. I did touch on it during the screen test, but yeah, I'm a fan of Nihon Falcom, so East, the Legend of Heroes series. I'm a big fan of both.
Very nice. And what about the gameplay? I'm not familiar with the type of game. So
combat is a lot like Suikoden. The monsters are on the map. There's no transition. It's real time. There's an exploration element as well. So the character that's recurrent throughout all of these adult, he always manages to get himself tasked with mapping the game world. So the more you explore the your goal is to kind of fill the map by kind of walking around every nook and cranny. And then the more of the world map you get, the more you get rewarded.
Nice. Very nice. Nihon, how do you pronounce it? Nihon Falcon?
Nihon Falcom. That's the developer. Okay. It's published in English by NIS America. So
thank you. Perfect. And Matt, how about you, sir?
As I mentioned before, I'm playing Psychonauts 2 at the moment on Xbox Game Pass. That game always surprises me when I jump back into it. Played the first one quite a while ago. This one is very much the same as the first, though. Very, very well designed, specific gameplay. Every time you move on to a new area, you think you're going to start hitting that repetitive loop of abilities and environments, but it never seems to vary. It never seems to be the same. Sorry, it varies quite a lot. But as we talked about before, it hits on a lot of very big themes, mostly in a positive way, but for those who aren't ready to confront them, it can sometimes be a bit of a intrusive experience, I guess. And there's always an epilepsy warning at the start. It's probably one of the flashiest games I see that's unapologetically so. But it did have a focus on accessibility at the start, so maybe there's some balance in there somewhere. But that's probably the one that I'll be tackling this week. I don't think there's any. I got a few other big ones on the cards. I'll keep them close to my chest. Still waiting for my opportunity to jump down the 12 minutes, jump onto the 12-minute soapbox and give my spiel for why it's one of the best games that's come out this year. I think that's a very unpopular opinion, but if ever we were going to do another roundtable, if any of you are interested, 12 minutes that I finished last week would be one of the better ones. I think it's a very interesting game.
Well,
Keep that in
speaking
mind.
of round tables, I think episode maybe 10, I think, is what we're thinking about. Just as a quick just to put it out there. But yeah, that's interesting. I would be happy to hear why you believe 12 minutes why it would be one of the best games of the year. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Very hard to talk
absolutely.
about without spoiling it, though. So
Yeah.
wouldn't want to ruin it for everyone. So I'll pick my time. I'll pick my place. As long as I get that opportunity at some point, I'll be happy.
Yeah.
Absolutely, we'll give you that opportunity. Oh, what's up, Celine?
I was just going to say, because since the game I'm playing is kind of off-piste for a lot of people, if you guys want me to kind of play you guys the beginning on the Discord server, I'm happy to do that, just so you can get an idea of what the fuss is about.
For sure.
I
Sure.
want to know the fuss. Absolutely.
Yeah.
You don't even have to ask to
Or-
share that. Just share it.
Just
Always.
share
Yeah.
it. Share
Well,
it.
guys, that's going to be the show. I'm not even sharing my game because I'm playing the same game as before, as I've been
Hades.
talking about. So
Hades.
So it's
Hades.
just run after run after run. But anyway, we're going to close out this show. Thank you so much for listening. Catch us on YouTube, Twitch, visit our Patreon, all that good stuff. Other than that, thanks for watching the Game & Watch podcast, and have a great day. Bye-bye.
Later.
Ciao.
Bye.